Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Aretha Lafayette, Program Manager for Research, Education, Program Development, and Outreach in the Office of Research and Innovation, and I will serve as your MC for today's discussion. Allow us to begin by making a land acknowledgement. UT Dallas stands on land originally settled and occupied by the Caddo, Wichita, and Comanche people. We recognize the legacy of colonization and the harm caused by the forced removal of indigenous people from these lands. UT Dallas continues to benefit from the contributions of indigenous students and employees on our campus, and we are committed to ongoing support for the Native culture that is essential to our community. For more information on the history of the land UT Dallas occupies, the Caddo Confederacy, and relevant treaties, please visit the Multicultural Center website. Joining us to present today is Dr. Patty Moore. Dr. Moore joined the Cancer Prevention and Research Institute, CPRIT, in June 2016. Her major focus at CPRIT is managing a $2.4 billion academic research award portfolio and developing new award mechanisms in alignment with input from CPRIT's advisory committees and emergent Texas needs, along with CPRIT's Chief Scientific Officer. A former population health executive, Dr. Moore has 20 years of diversified healthcare and industry experience in public and private hospitals and community clinics, private practices, universities, and insurers. She specialized in improving healthcare delivery to patients and practice transformation through statewide and national collaborative initiatives and strategic partnerships. Welcome, Dr. Moore. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lafayette, for that introduction. It's very kind. So I am super excited to be here today and to inform you about opportunities at CPRIT, the Cancer Prevention and Research Institute. And I want this to be interactive. We'll stop periodically for questions. If this is not the focus, I'm open to having just a Q&A as well. So it's your meeting. I want to make sure that you're satisfied with it. And so today's topic is we're going to talk about the introduction, the history, and the unique role of CPRIT in the fight against cancer. We're going to talk about the 3 CPRIT programs. We're going to talk about the University of Texas at Dallas award portfolio, where you currently stand, and then we're going to talk about additional funding opportunities. We're going to talk about the peer review process. We just came off a 2-week peer review panels, and so there's some feedback, I think, or maybe advice in terms of submitting an application that is enthusiastically reviewed by peer review. We're going to talk about the portfolio, CPRIT's portfolio, and what we see as gaps and opportunities. And if this is your science, you need to pay attention to this slide later. And then I'm going to talk about the academic research RFA life cycle and some application tips, and then we'll do a QA, but again, we'll entertain QA as we go forward. And so, as you know, cancer is the leading cause of death for Texans age 85 and younger, and the leading cause of death from disease amongst Texas children and adolescents. And you can look at the numbers that we got from the Texas Data Registry, which, by the way, CPRIT funds allocation to the Texas Data Cancer Registry. And besides the devastation of human loss of adults, children, cancer also has economic costs to Texas that you can see as well. Reduction in annual spending, loss of jobs, etc. So this is a thank you to all of you who voted in 2007 and then again in 2015 in the ballot, where there is a referendum set up by the Texas legislators to first in 2007 establish CPRIT, and then 2019 to come back and refund CPRIT for another 10 years. And so by that nature, CPRIT is the second largest governmental funding agency for cancer research in the United States. Of course, NIH is the first, and so we're really proud of this. But it really is a tribute to the Texas legislators that have all been impacted with family members having cancer, our advocates, the roles of the advocates, the universities going to the Capitol and advocating for CPRIT, and then continuing to ask for the second leg of CPRIT. So thank you all. And then putting it out to the general public, where it was overwhelmingly voted in. So again, created by Texans, for Texans, CPRIT carries its mission through the academic research, prevention, and product development programs. Each program we're going to see has priorities that their oversight committee, which is set up by the legislators to have oversight of our entire process. The oversight committee is made up of the governor. So the appointees to this committee are made by the governor, lieutenant governor, and speaker of the House. And each one of these appoints 3 private citizens to serve as oversight committee members for a 6-year term. At least one member appointed by each of the officers is a physician, but at this time we have 3 oncologists on our oversight committee. So here's an overview of the awards. So it's quite impressive. To date, there's 901 awards. This is as of our last quarterly meeting, which was in August of 2023. You'll see the number of awards totaling $3.4 billion. It's a really large and a really novel portfolio, and you'll see that a little bit later. You'll see the breakout by academic research, product development, and prevention. So this is a nice slide, I think, that tells you the breakdown by the programs. You can see that the academic research program holds 71% of the research portfolio overall, and 80% of the total awards. You'll see that the prevention program, by Constitution and the Texas Administrative Code, can only receive 10% of the portfolio. And so you'll see that they have 291 awards, but later you're going to see what they do with those fundings and how they reach every single community and county in Texas. Product development is 19% of the portfolio. Currently, they have 68 awards, and you see the number in millions. So I'm going to go over CPRIT's overall priorities. And this is for all 3 programs, are investing in the cancer research capacity of Texas institutions across the state of Texas through recruitment of cancer scholars, recruits, investment in core facilities, and investment in individual investigator awards, again, across all the regions of the state, building a science ecosystem across by bridging discovery and translational research into early stage companies. We have certain mechanisms for when you have a great idea and you patent it perhaps, and you don't have enough funds, it's called the valley of death, to get it into a clinic. There are funds to help with that transition. And lastly, to increase the capacity for Texas to have a significant impact on prevention, early detection, and ultimately decreasing those cancer numbers that we saw in the previous slide. And so our established principles are first and foremost scientific excellence and the impact on cancer, increasing the life science infrastructure in all regions of the state, and reducing cancer disparities. So you really want to pay attention to this slide and the next slide in terms of addressing these priorities in your applications. These are, again, the priorities for the academic research program, and it is recruiting outstanding cancer research to Texas. We're going to talk about that a little bit longer. Investment in core facilities, which are so incredibly important to the research community that perhaps doesn't have the funds to fund certain resources or equipment, and these core facilities offer their services throughout Texas. A broad range of innovative investigator-initiated research projects, which are equivalent to the R01s of NIH, implementation research to accelerate the adoption and deployment of evidence-based prevention and screening interventions, and population research addressing cancer disparities. And I'm just going to stop here because we have, and you'll see the number of prevention, and by Constitution, the prevention program cannot conduct research, but what they have is an amazing amount of data on the prevention strategies. And what we see missing is the pathway from prevention awards to academic awards, where we take that data and we implement it into the communities, and hopefully then on to a product or best practices or changes in policy, at least in Texas and perhaps even federally. These are our targeted priorities, and that is childhood and adolescent cancers. We have, CPRIT is very pleased to announce that 11.5% of our funding is geared towards childhood and adolescent cancers, which surpasses that of NCI. We have a very active childhood and adolescent advisory committee, and we have 2 pediatric oncologists on our oversight committee, but it's amazing the work that they have done. Hepatocellular cancer, as you know, Texas ranks unfortunately #1 in liver cancer, especially with millennials, and we are really addressing, and this is a really great example of how we listen and then implement an RFA. When we learned from the Texas Cancer Registry of the tremendous outlier that Texas was in the nation, we brought together experts throughout Texas in liver cancer, and we then developed a RFA system where there's called CAP, and it is an action center, which is like the hub, and then these independent RFAs, IRAs, that surround. And so right now we have about 15 different IRAs that are specifically centered on liver cancer. in all different aspects, from communities to substance and alcohol abuse, drug abuse, to the prison population, to what's being grown in our gardens, to climate change. So it's really been some terrific science. Another important priority is expanding clinical trials to all areas of Texas and not just down the I-35 corridor, so that if you're living in Lubbock or in the Rio Grande Valley, that you don't need to drive over 3 hours or longer to get to a clinical trial. So this is our portfolio. $240 billion has been awarded, 1542 awards. But I really want to emphasize is that the return on investment is, if you look at, so it's 2.4 billion, and the return on investment is 2.94 billion. And that return on investment is purely federal funds coming into the state of Texas from these leveraged awards. And so, and that is really terrific in our book. We also have, you'll see later, and you have them at your institution, we have recruited 300 outstanding scholars to Texas, and they are spectacular in terms of the science that they're bringing, the novelty that they're bringing to Texas, but also the generating of new staff when they come to Texas and hiring staff. And one of the things that I am most interested is in our scholars back to 2010, 2011, 94% from 2010 of our scholars are still in Texas, which is a really high retainment if I look at other statistics. And they're bringing in, again, new generations from their postdocs that then go on to receive awards and then NIH awards. So it's really quite evident of the impact of these recruits, these stellar recruits that are brought to Texas. This is by the number. We have 3 mechanisms: the recruitment of established investigators, which you have, and the awards. The recruitment of missing links was offered at one time and no longer. The recruitment of rising stars and the recruitment of first-time tenure-track faculty. And so I'll go through them later in terms of the RFA and the specifics and who's eligible and who's not. For the rising stars and the established investigators, the investigators candidates need to come from outside of Texas. For the first-time tenure track, these applicants can come from inside Texas. It could be one of your postdocs, it can be anyone at your university, or someone who may from another Texas university want to come to Dallas, to your university. So I like this slide because it shows, in my mind at least, how our portfolio is split in terms of recruiting and training awards and core facilities, the infrastructure versus the novelty, these investigator-initiated research projects. So it's almost split in terms, you can see the number of investigator-initiated awards, which are all our IRAs, and our infrastructure, that is our research training awards, where we train the new cohort of cancer researchers in Texas, the scholars, the 300 scholars, and then the 84 core facility awards. This is a map. It's already outdated because with the number of scholars, it's now we have 300 scholars in 17 companies. You'll see that many of our scholars come from California, from Stanford, USC, and then from the rest of the country. It's come from very prestigious schools. And I will tell you, there is not one scientific review meeting that oversees the application and reviews the recruitment awards. Every single time they say to us, to CPRIT, we wish our state would have a scholar award. We wish our state would have a CPRIT program. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about product development. And you'll see that on the first slide that there's 28 or 68 grant awards. They also have tremendous direct follow-on funds raised by capital venturists and companies of $6.48 billion versus the investment of $639 million. There's 31 of these companies that are actively conducting clinical trials, and there's some projects and companies that have been launched as a result of CPRIT's investment. Here is the program objectives. It is identifying and funding projects to develop novel drugs, diagnostic applications, devices, and other non-traditional products, with a focus, obviously, on relevance to cancer treatment and prevention. You do not, in this mechanism, need to have a company. All companies are welcome to apply, especially Texas companies. But if you're not a Texas company, you can apply for this competitive award, but with the understanding that you're going to relocate to Texas upon the award, and bringing all your products to the marketplace in Texas. And we also provide funding that promotes the translation of research at Texas institutions into startup companies. And there's an award called the SEED Award. And that again bridges the valley of death. So you have some good data, but not enough data yet, and not enough support from venture capitalists. And the SEED Award, which is $2 million, can help you be competitive if you're not already in the other products, which programs which are the only RFAs in CPRIT that have no cap on funding. So you come with whatever it will take to fulfill your company's mission and your goals and objectives. So this is a nice slide because these represents 21 university spinouts, and it's divided by the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, some in Lubbock, San Antonio, College Station, Austin, and Houston. So I think it's a nice representation, and I think it's a high number of academic universities that have spun out companies. So for the prevention program, which we talked about having a 10% cap on funding, there are goal is to reach underserved populations. And again, it is not research. It is screening, education, and awareness. And the goal is to reach every single county in Texas. And if you're a Texan, like all of you, you know there's a lot of counties in Texas. It has to be evidence-based, direct intervention with vaccinations, weight control, smoking cessation or survivorship, and results oriented, that this data has to move public impact that exceed one current performance in a given service area. And we have seen that. We have seen where our data in terms of the number of cancer cases and the number of screenings and the mitigations of cancer in these areas, these service areas, have really helped legislators provide additional money to these catchment areas. So this is their portfolio, 291 awards, 9.3 million services provided to Texans, which is really outstanding. This is county of residents of people served by the CPRIT projection of projects from 2010 to 23. And you see on the right-hand side, over 9.3 million education and clinical services have been provided, 5.6 million education and training, 3.7 clinical services. And these, and I would ask, because I'm not going to go into prevention, but if you visit our website, you will see the great extent that these prevention organizations and grantees have very stellar and very novel approaches to appealing to Texans who traditionally may not be interested in a screening. And so there's a lot of novelty in reaching all Texans in these capacities. And this is the screening outcomes. In September of 2023, we have 68 active projects. You can see the number of projects in this map and the screening outcomes, which are extended, right? 2 million screenings and diagnostics. The number of people never before screened, the number of precursors identified, and cancers detected. So to date, I'm going to switch up, and these are 36 academic institutions that have received awards. And of course, the University of Texas at Dallas is one of those. And I'm going to go over your portfolio, but before I do, is there any questions that I can answer regarding the previous slides?
No, there are no questions. I think there was one about how to get involved, and I think you kind of went over that, Dr. Moore, so we are good to move forward.
Okay. So this is a snapshot of your portfolio, the University of Texas at Dallas, over all time. And so over all time, you'll see that 23 awards have been awarded, grants have been awarded. Overall, your success rate is 14%, and that comes from the number of applications submitted to the number of awards. Typically, we see between 10 and 11% success rate. And so to have a 14% success rate is really outstanding. And you could see you have a core facility, an early translational research award. You have several high impact, high risk research awards. You have 9 IRAs, 1 multi-investigator research award, 1 recruitment of established investigator award, and 3 recruitment of first-time tenure track faculty members. And I'm showing this, what we consider to be pseudo success rates for the grants, and we look at follow-on funds, the number of publications, and the number of patents. And you'll see that there's been 139 publications to date as a result of these awards. Number of patent 15 have been filed, and $6.5 million back to the state in return on investment. But this is misleading, and I want to tell you why, is because all this data is from our annual progress reports. In many of these mechanisms or these new awards have not gone through their first cycle of awards, and so it's misleading. And we also know that the majority of funding comes after the award, after the award ends and terminates from CPRIT. And we're starting to collect that data now, and we see that it's like twofold, that it keeps on giving after the 5 or 2-year award ends. So I just want to say is that I think a success rate of 14% is outstanding, and I think there is a lot more opportunities for the University of Texas at Dallas to look at different mechanisms. So I was going to stop here and introduce Dr. Zhang, who holds one of our awards, and she very gratefully has agreed to speak about her CPRIT award.
Thank you, Dr. Mo. And I first want to show my appreciation to CPRIT and Dr. Mo for having provided the support for our research. So I really have 2 points to make. So first, I think in previous email, I was asked to think about how to prepare for applications for CPRIT. So first thing is that I think preparing for CPRIT application is not so much different from preparing for NIH application. You follow the instructions. Now, practically, in terms of funding, the first thing I want to say is recently I attended this very interesting and informative CPRIT Innovation Conference organized by Dr. Mo and her colleagues, which is excellent. So I met several investigators who are very successful at securing both NIH and CPRIT funding. They were telling me that this NIH review is kind of quite easier to expect the results. CPRIT is less predictable. NIH review more predictable. But I'm seeing NCI with the funding rate of 8%. I don't know about you, but my proposals are often predictably rejected. So CPRIT offers a real necessary alternative opportunity for cancer researchers. So now I want to also point out another practical point for applicants. I think compared to NIH ROI application, CPRIT is more reviewers are more into like a novelty, less on preliminary data. So I have personally some very successful grantee showed me actually his proposal review. His proposal got like pages and pages of criticism, but because of novelty, his proposal was ranked very high score and got funded easily. So then so now CPRIT do not require a whole lot of preliminary data. So that's a good aspect. NIH, I think they want a lot of preliminary data. So that's my first point. The second point is maybe to complement what Dr. Mo already said about our success in acquiring CPRIT funding. I want to provide an insight, more and detailed insight. I think at UTD here, biology is very difficult for biological sciences investigator to get a CPRIT funding. As far as I know, I'm the only one who has got the CPRIT awards. So all the other awards are from chemistry and engineering. Why? It makes sense science-wise, because chemistry, they often can synthesize a novel drug. So it's a simple story. Same way, likewise, engineering people have some novel techniques. So it's a simple story. This can provide a simple story for reviewers to appreciate. So in CPRIT panel, you think that actually majority of the panel are reviewing biological sciences. So why it is so hard for any UTD biological faculty member to get funded? I think that there are several good reasons. One is reviewer bias. So actually, CPRIT panel reviewers actually always been told me, they're from out of state. So when they review proposal, obviously they loaded the major medical centers. And institutions like UTD, they don't know, they never heard of it. So they would automatically already do not trust our ability to do our research. And so she said, try to collaborate with a major medical center. And that's how I got my own proposal funded, by collaborating with UT Southwestern, an investigator with technology. So we got two grant funded. We need to try to figure out some new things to get funded. So that's the first reason, reviewer bias. Another reason is, to get funded from NIH or CPRIT in biological sciences, you often require some omics, metabolomics is hard. And also patient samples, right? So natural way, you want to find the collaborators, UT Southwest and whatever. However, those collaborators already have loads of collaborators from their own institution or other institution. Once I was told by NIH review administrator, he said this metabolic expert, Dr. DiBerardinis, sorry, I cannot say his name well, but he said his study section, 1/3 of the applicants collaborated with him. So this is the reality. So now another point I want to make, if you look at the drug developed, right? Actually, a good portion of them actually from ideas and the research work from small labs. In NYU, there is a drug developed there, either Remicade or Embro. The lab was very, very small. So then the drug market value is billions every year. Another example is the recent RNA vaccine, right? The studies carried out and set the foundation for RNA vaccine were these two Nobel Prize winners, especially the female one. She was having trouble getting a job. So their research was very cold. So lots of the biomedical research are oriented. I hope you can forgive me for saying this, on fancy stories, and everybody pursue the hottest ideas, and everybody think what's hot. But sometimes I say, you know, if a group of 13 people agree something is so innovative, right? I don't think by definition it is actually innovative. Real innovative ideas are often just one person has it. That's the history of science teaches you. So I wonder, the point is NIH knows this, and they have like area and COBRA mechanism to fund those, you know, university institutions who cannot possibly compete with major universities. I don't know if CPRIT has any willingness to consider similar mechanism like COBRA to area to fund like universities like UTD, which, you know, especially I think engineering and chemistry are more capable of competing because of their, you know, they don't really, you see medical center often don't have so many chemists, right? They don't have so many engineers as well, but they have loads, they have overwhelmed biologists. So engineers and the chemists are better able to compete simply because, you know, they have fewer competitors. Now biologists are harder to compete because we have thousands, like UT Southwest have almost 3,000 faculty members. You know, our biology department has 20. So it's obviously a very unequal competition. But I think with the, you know, only 2 awards, you know, funded by CPRIT, especially in my lab, we're able to maybe do some research which has attracted lots of attention as well as commercial development. So I think in terms of even development in Texas, right? You know, we have so many medical centers which are doing very well, like UT Southwest, especially in research, and MD Anderson and others. But all this money, it may be worthwhile to build more infrastructure, you know, like in UTD. I don't know. I'm sorry if my dear is offensive, but that's something I like to bring up with this opportunity. So that's, I think, right now, pretty much what I have in mind to express here.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback. And I will tell you what you have said, articulated very well, is what other universities have articulated. And 2 years ago, because we saw the inequity, for better lack of a word, in terms of funds being diversified across all Texas, is that we did a couple things. Number one is we developed a track in these RFAs, and it's called the Texas Regional Excellence in Cancer Awards. And we looked at that time, Dr. Wilson was the chief scientific officer, and Wayne Roberts looked at the funding levels of institutions and then looked at their mileage to a local NCI Comprehensive Cancer Center. And from there, we developed this geographic diversity group. And that includes the Rio Grande Valley, McAllen, Lubbock, some other areas, but because UT Dallas is so close to UT Southwestern, it didn't meet one of the criteria, as well as your metrics in federal funds as well as CPRIT funds was above the threshold. So We addressed it that way. And on the application, you will see on the face page, it says, I am TREC eligible. And that is a signal to the reviewers that this is an institution that has not, is underrepresented in CPRIT's portfolio. The other thing that you brought up is really important as well, and that's collaboration, where I think when I started, at least, and certainly when CPRIT, things were very siloed. What happened at, and I'm just saying this, MD Anderson or any institution stayed at that institution, even though across the street are 3 other institutions. And so we saw very little collaborative work, and even the sharing of equipment that CPRIT purchased. And so we incentivize that you will receive extra consideration if you involved an institution outside of your own institution. And we saw that just in the last 2 weeks during peer review. And so, for instance, UT Southwestern would garner more points perhaps in scoring if they partner with UT Dallas or the Rio Grande Valley or another underrepresented school. And so we're tracking that for seeing trends in terms of, you know, going up in terms of the diversity, and we're seeing that. It's incremental, it's going to happen over time. But I'm really interested in getting feedback from your entire campus in terms of how you would like CPRIT. We're open always to revising, modifying RFAs, thinking of new RFAs, and we welcome everyone's voice. If we're not doing something correctly, we want to know about it. And so thank you very much for that. The last thing I'm going to talk about is you talked about preliminary data. And for our IRAs and most of our mechanisms, you need to have preliminary data that shows that it's on the right track for CPRIT to continue funding. But for our high impact, high risk, you do not have to have preliminary data. You just need to have a good idea. That's very novel. We're also interested in, biomedical research. And so we can talk about that as well, Dr. Zhang. And, computer systems biology in terms of artificial intelligence. We're interested in as well. Basic science, applied science. So thank you. Thank you for.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to, essence of time, move on. And I just wanted to highlight a scholar, an established investigator who was awarded, I believe, in February, Dr. Hassan, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. His application was very enthusiastically reviewed by our Scientific Review Council. And so I would recommend, if for the awards, and maybe if people, the PI is open to it, that they're shared to say, what are the components that made this group of people, besides this unique expertise that he brings, what else were some of the components? And it's something else that Dr. Zhang brought up, is that one of the things we see is the resource page doesn't always contain all the resources that are available to the institution. And that's a scorable point criteria. And some institutions are very humble in terms of expanding and providing accolades to their state-of-the-art equipment and the expertise of their researchers. So that's something to think about. So I'm going to move on to these funding opportunities, and I have links in future slides, but this high impact, high risk is by far one of my most favorite RFAs that CPRIT has. And the reason is it's the smallest award. It's $250,000 for a period of 2 years. But it's high impact and high risk, meaning if it's successful, it's going to have big impact. If it's not, it's a risk. And so CPRIT understands that one of the aims hypothesis doesn't falls out, then that's still science, and we learned. But by far, this is our high impact, high risk awardees, our PIs, move on because it provides them the opportunity to build their preliminary data. The core facility support rewards are again really important. They provide valuable services and to enhance the science of cancer research projects across Texas. Every core facility that CPRIT funds is available to all the researchers, cancer researchers at your university. And I can provide you with a map and a list of the core facilities and their specialties, what they provide. The maximum duration is 5 years. It's up to $3 million in total cost. The Multi-Investigator Research Award and really speaks to the collaborative effort and the importance of it. In times of team science, we offered this like in 3 times, but not recently. And so it's open now. And we encourage you to think about this project and address one of or several of the program priorities for academic research. And it's multiple projects, it's multiple institutions and investigators. So take a look at that. It's $4.5 million in total costs for a maximum of 4 years. This is opened for applications and closes in January, mid-January. This is a new a clinical investigator award, and you can read this in the this is where we are offering an RFA to encourage either oncologists or non-oncologists who want to conduct cancer research, a pathway of protected time, and through a mentor to engage in clinical trials and teach others to initiate clinical trials. And the partners can be with pharma, other partners, other laboratory-based collaborators. It's $1.5 million in total cost for a period of 5 years. So here are the links, and these are active links. and you will get this PowerPoint if you don't already have it, and it will take you. These are our 4 opened RFAs. They close on January 16th, and they're going to be announced in August of 24. Now I'm going to talk about the recruitment RFAs and the established investigators. It recruits outstanding senior research faculty, just like your established investigator, with distinguished professional careers to an academic institution. This is the nominees, the candidates for this award must be from outside of Texas. And the award is up to $6 million over a period of 5 years. So this is a great opportunity for any department within your university who has a gap of expertise to nominate a candidate for this award. Same thing with the recruitment of rising stars. It's early stage investigators recruiting to Texas who have demonstrated promise for continued enhanced contributions to the field of cancer research, up to $4 million over a period of 5 years. This again, the candidates must come from outside of Texas, but these are open to any department, to the University of Dallas, to look at gaps in expertise and look forward thinking in terms of where are the strategies that the institution is going. And we have had established investigators launching a new program within a new department, a new component within an institution. And the third is the recruitment of first-time tenure-track faculty members. This award is open to any candidates from an academic university, can be from outside of Texas, but also inside of Texas. It can be from your own university for a very promising postdoc who you don't want to lose competitively with another institution, that your institution can nominate this first-time tenure track, of course, to fill a need within the institution and what expertise they're bringing to Texas. It also can be a nomination, a candidate from another Texas university who would like to relocate to Dallas to your university. And that's up to $2 million over a period of 5 years. And here's the live links to the recruitment mechanisms. This is different from every other RFA that academic research puts out, in that this is continuous. There is a monthly submission cycle by the 20th of each month. So it's a rolling application process. And the SRC meets every month, or if we don't have enough applications, a cohort, we may roll over, but we typically meet on the 15th or the 16th of each month. So because we know the competitive nature of bringing these scholars to Texas, and it's too long to wait a year. We are committed to getting people on board in a shorter amount of time. We have so our success rates of our scholar awards. So I said in the non-scholar awards, it's 10 to 11%. For scholars, it's 54%. I mean, there's a high success rate for scholars for well-written applications. And out of the recommended and awarded recruits, 71% of those scholars move their family or transition to Texas. Now I'm going to talk about peer review. And so CPRIT, as I said, supports the most creative ideas, meritorious projects brought forward by the cancer researchers community in Texas. We have a very rigorous peer review. You cannot reside in Texas and be a CPRIT peer reviewer. You have to be outside of Texas. We're very transparent. Our peer reviewers for each panel are listed on our website. You will get a notification of your application and who's going to be reviewing, what panel is going to be reviewing it, and you can go to the website and see the list of reviewers. There's also an opportunity. This doesn't happen very often, but it can happen if you, as the applicant, are notified your application's going to a particular panel. If you feel there's a conflict of interest in that panel, or it's not the right panel, you can ask for the Chief Scientific Officer through me to arrange for another panel if the Chief Scientific Officer approves it. So the process is we have this rigorous review schedule, and then the Scientific Review Council from the peer review that we just had real time will then vote on the applications that will go forward to this Program Integration Committee. And the Program Integration Committee is made up of CPRIT leadership, the Chief of Product Development, Chief Prevention Officer, and the Chief Scientific Officer, and our General Counsel and CEO, as well as the Director of the Texas Department of State Health Services. And after the PIC, Program Integration Committee, approves the awards that were recommended, it goes on to the Oversight Committee, and it's a quarterly meeting. These meetings are live streamed. Anyone can attend them virtually, or you can come in person. We encourage you to do that. It has to be a 2/3 vote by the Oversight Committee in order for it to be approved. This is our Scientific Review Committee. There are 12 members, 6 panels, chairs, 2 ad hoc committee members, and we bring in, when we receive the applications, and for instance, with the IRAS, we received 365 applications. The Chief Scientific Officer goes through those 365 applications and assigns a panel based upon her expertise, as well as the scope of the project and where it fits. If there's an application or several or many applications that don't fit the expertise that is currently on these panels, we will go outside and obtain the scientific expertise that we need to give everyone fair representation in the review. So we're going to switch a little bit now, and this is an analysis that Academic Research Program did in terms of our portfolio. Can I just check for time real quick? Are we good?
We are about 4 minutes over our time, Dr. Moore. So yes, you're fine. If I know you're on your last 2 slides, so if you just want to go ahead and complete those, we'll be good to go.
So I would use this slide if for your research. These are the gaps in our portfolio. I'm not going to go name by name, but if your research is impacted by any of these items, I would highly encourage you to apply. Here's the life cycle. Read this on your own. grantsmanship manners. I've seen brilliant people write applications that are lacking information, and it's not good to see. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. That was awesome. We really appreciate your time, and thank you for hanging in there with us as well, attendees. We thank you all for joining us today. And to keep up with the Office of Research and Innovation programs, please do so by following us on social media and subscribing to our newsletter. Join us today at 1 p.m. as Hanover Grants consultant Paul Tuttle presents DoD Young Investigators. We also invite you to pop in for popsicles, popcorn, and posters this Wednesday, October 25th at the UT Dallas Visitor Center as Research Days continues with the Graduate Student Poster Competition and Research Showcase. Stop by and learn more about the research labs on campus, internship opportunities, cloud storage solutions from Amazon Web Services, participate in a community painting project, and much more. This information and the polite request to complete a brief survey about today's program can be found in the chat. Thank you and have a wonderful afternoon.